everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing Bizarre Books by Russell Ash and Brian Lake. Like I've said before, this one is actually in one of my book clubs that I'm doing, and we are actually following a reading log from Book Riot. Blah 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 blah. So this format might be a little different than we're all used to, but whatever. So this was actually published in '98, so it's a new-ish book, but they go all the way back as far as they can to find strange, weird, bizarre books. Some of them go back to the 1700s. Goodness gracious, they're funny. So basically it's a compendium of strange sounding and actually strange in themselves books. So this book in 3 words I would describe as illuminating, interesting, and different. Let's see. So basically it tells you several different kinds of books. Like here's an example if you guys can see. The book, the author, publishers, when it was published, and it's just that. Most of the time it's just the title itself. Sometimes it gives a little bit of info. So one of the ones that I found interesting was called The Walking Stick Method of Self-Defense. It was published in 1926. It's a manual showing the many ways of hitting someone with a stick for self-defense. What? I was like, whoa, that's weird. But then I remembered Morgan from The Walking Dead. You guys remember him? Remember how he was like learning? I was like, I wonder if it's the same book that was used for him to learn how to do that. That would be kind of interesting, right? Alright. And there was another book that I found called Arresting Disclosures, a report on the strange findings in undergarments washed with soap and water and popularly supposed to be clean, fresh, and wholesome. This was published in 1924. Basically, it's about dingleberries, surprise dingleberries in underwear. Wow. Another one was called Stop in the Name of Love, Ejaculation Control for Life. And you're thinking, good grief. That was published in 1994. Did we really have that problem in '94? Really? Guys, what the heck? So there were 2 others that were quite amusing as well, and I'm going to do a little bit of reading of them. So the first word is called The Fangs of Suet Pudding, and it was written in 1944. This is the book in question. Look at that face. That's disgusting, right? In the heart of France, May 1940. Lorelei Vance is suddenly awakened from her sleep by the entry into her room of, so she thought, a burglar. It may be that because he happened to be English, handsome, young, and appealing, that she allowed him to hide under her bed. But whatever the reason, it began the series of strange and startling events that brought her into the orbit of Suet Pudding Face, Karl Vipering, the master Nazi spy, whose tentacles had spread over a small band of English folk who dared to oppose his machinations. Quote, but Suet Pudding's fat, sunken-eyed egotism was not yet satisfied. If he had a whip, I knew he would have cracked it, Instead, he clicked his heels smartly to attention, and for the first time that night, I smelt the stench of crushed violets. I don't really have any other words to say for that one. What the heck? And then this other one, of course, because I have the mind of a 12-year-old boy, I found this hilarious. And I'm going to read it for you. So the book is called An Essay Upon Wind, with curious anecdotes of eminent preachers, humbly dedicated to the Lord Chancellor. This was written, or published, in 1787. I take it there are 5 or 6 different species of farts, and which are perfectly distinct from each other, both in weight and smell. How you gonna weigh a fart? How much does a fart weigh? Do you know how much a fart weighs already? Does it weigh as much as a soul? When you fart, do you lose some of your soul? Does that explain why some of us are soulless, empty vessels? First, the sonorous and full-tone fart. Second, the double fart. Third, the soft fizzing fart. Fourth, the wet fart. And fifth, the sullen windbound fart. Fart number 4, commonly called the wet fart, is very easily procured. Let any person fond of overeating cram himself with pies, custards, whipped syllabub, prunes, etc., and he will do his business with effectual dispatch, so as to need an immediate washing. Ladies produce this species of fart better than gentlemen, so that it is advisable to try this experiment upon a strong, healthy young lady of about 18, and who is apt to be hungry. The afterthoughts upon farting, shewing its great utility, with curious anecdotes of eminent farters, gives warning of overindulgence in the art by quoting the case of Simon Tupp, the farting blacksmith from Kirkeaton, Yorkshire, who had the singular and ingenious talent of accompanying any instrument, which he could perform so admirably in time, tone, and tune, as to deceive the nicest judges. The fate of this poor fellow was very melancholy. By an uncommon exertion, which he made in the famous song, Blow High, Blow Low, he unfortunately broke a blood vessel, of which he instantly died. Funny. Which brings me to one of my quotes of life. You know, if anybody asks you what's an advice that you would give to somebody for life, I would say, never force a fart naked, especially around a chihuahua. So the questions were, how did this challenge influence your reading experience? This book actually wasn't as monotonous as I thought it would be. I thought it would just be a boring list and just kind of like bleh. But it, gave you a little bit of insight into books, which was obviously hilarious and nice. And what insights did you gain from this challenge? It actually gave me more books to be added to my to-be-read list. Yeah. I like big books and I cannot lie. Little books, I can't deny. All the books, brother. All the books, brother. Books. Okay. So, that book, I would give a 5 out of 5. Even though it's kind of a list, but it's, an explanatory list. So, it's not as boring as a list. So, 5 out of 5. Great book. The next book I'm going to be reading is also for this same book club, because we book people and we cray like that. It's called I'd Rather Be Reading The Delights and Dilemmas of the Reading Life by Anne Vogel. And she's the blogger of Modern Miss Darcy. I've actually gotten some things on my to-be-read list that's on Pinterest from her blog. So I've got like 3 to-be-read lists. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it is. Anyways, that's going to be up next. About a quarter of the way through. This one is nice. It actually talks about reading books, how you feel, and you know, the thoughts, emotions, all that good stuff that goes along with having it. Books, having it. What? Look at this. I'm all disheveled because I read about farts. I lose my freaking mind when I read about farts because it's so hilarious, and I have the attention span of a gnat. Anyways, hope you guys found that as entertaining as I did. And to match the bizarre books, I was thinking, well, what do? You know, it's about books. So I'm in my mini library, shelfies, whatever you want to call it, of books over here, and then I ran out of a bookshelf, so I started stacking on the floor, halfway up the wall. All of these books pretty much are used. I like to get used books from the library because they're super cheap, or used books from the thrift store because they're also pretty cheap. I love thrift stores. This shirt, thrift store, who would have thought it? I'm a cheap person. Thanks for asking. Okay, talk to you guys later. Bye.